This is One-on-One. We are at the 163rd New Jersey Education Association convention, beautiful Atlantic City, with Sean Spiller, who is the Secretary-Treasurer of the NJEA. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking.
By the way, I should also make it clear, we are neighbors in our hometown of beautiful Montclair, and you serve on the Township Council.
I do, yeah, my great pleasure.
So, you decided to go into education because?
You know what, I always thought that for me, the people that had the most impact on my life were my parents. And beyond that, in college, I played hockey and I was coached by a gentleman who really I learned so much from, and he was a high school science teacher. And I remember for years I would go to these practices or we'd have our games and I'd listen to him, and you just got that feeling of what a difference he was making day in and day out with the kids that he taught. And I'd hear the stories, and it just got me excited to really move towards teaching. And I went the exact same way. I became a high school science teacher just like him, and I can only hope that I've also had an impact on hopefully a lot of lives.
So the people around you said, come on, Sean, why don't you just go make a lot of money in corporate America? Oh, you're shaking your head because they did say it.
Yeah, well, I saw my friends who were doing it.
And you
know?
said?
I said, look, this is about the same reason why I started it, and I saw the difference he was making. And when you're in education, it is not the best paid profession. It is certainly underpaid for the work that it is, but you get such a reward. You get such a reward from the kids every single day, so it's absolutely worth it.
Describe it.
It's the feeling that it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. You're coming in, you might be a little down, something may upset you, and you walk in and a student comes in and they just say something that makes you smile, or they ask a question. It can be about the littlest of things. One that I'm thinking of as I'm even telling you the story, I can't remember why I was a little off that day or felt a little down, but I walked in and I was teaching freshman biology. And the kids are there, we're about to go through something, and she comes in and she's just excited about whatever it is we're talking about. And the other kids are like, come on, don't be so excited, you know, calm down. But she hadn't given that up, and she was like, no, I love this. And you just looked at that and said, that's what it's all about. You know, the kids are so excited, they want to learn, and you're helping to help them along the way.
And science.
Yeah.
Why science?
I always found it interesting. I think that it's for me, it's just an exciting thing to do, and they say probably, you know, you enjoy teaching what you enjoy doing, and for me, I think that just the ability to work with your hands and do so many things with experiments and learn through that manner, I find really appealing.
Talk to me about getting involved in the New Jersey Education Association. It's one thing to teach, it's one thing to make a difference in the lives of students, which is huge. But then you decide to get involved in the professional association, the organization that represents educators, because?
Well, as a teacher even, I would go to a lot of different workshops and conferences that we would have, a lot of it with professional development and some of it with advocacy. And for me, there really wasn't that much of a difference in terms of when you're fighting for students and then you're also fighting for the individuals who are in those classrooms or in those buildings. There's a lot of overlap there. You know, it's the same things. I always talk about, you know, teachers' working conditions or students' learning conditions, and it's so true though. You know, you look at yourself and say, I understand that we're there and we're focused on the kids, and that's what any educator will tell you. You know, they'd love to just shut that door and do that work. But I also got that there were so many outside of that room that made a difference on what happened there and what I could do or what I couldn't do, and we need to be involved there as well.
What do you hear from most of your members in terms of their number one or two concerns? They say, hey, listen,
Lack of respect.
Lack of respect?
Lack of respect.
Talk
I think
about that.
Look, and I don't want to go too political, but the bottom line is when you've had a governor for so many years just railing against the profession, demonizing the work, calling people who dedicate their lives to people's children and helping them do well greedy and so many other words that are much worse.
Excuse me, devil's advocate, the governor would argue he was never talking about teachers. He would be talking about the organization and his differences politically or philosophically, but never teachers, you say?
I say there is no distinction. They are the same thing. Teachers are what make up the teachers' union. That always bothered me in the sense of, I'm a high school science teacher. I'm also one of the officers of the association. We have other teachers who run for and are elected by our members. Our delegate assembly made up of all, educators, not just teachers. I happen to be a teacher, but we have all of these individuals who are all educators in this state who make up that union that we're labeled as, but we're the same teacher or the same custodian or bus driver or whatever that may be, but we have another hat that we wear because we also advocate for ourselves. So when someone tries to say, oh, I'm not talking about the people in the classrooms or in the buildings or on the buses, I'm talking about the union, who makes up that union? That we are the same thing.
But respectfully, let me ask you this, Sean. What about legitimate differences of opinion on certain very complex, controversial, and difficult public policy issues? people just have a different point of view. How comfortable having those very different points of view with leaders of the professional association that represents teachers? Fair game.
Yeah, fair game. I think absolutely. Differences of opinion, conversations, disagreements are totally...
Spirited disagreements.
Spirited. And I think that's a key piece, though. Spirit is different than disrespectful or demeaning. And I think that some of the word choice, when you're a leader, and I think that, when you wear a hat and you have a responsibility to the office that you hold, you have an obligation also to treat that office with the respect that it deserves and it has earned over time. And I think there are words that matter. And certainly I can disagree with you on an issue, or a governor may disagree with us on an issue. You can have that conversation. You can be very spirited in that disagreement. You can argue for your points, and we will certainly make ours. But it's when you insert other phrases, other words, or you demean more than you debate, I think that's when you have a problem.
There's a new president coming in. He may have even taken office by the time this airs, January 20th. Words matter. We don't know how things will be by the time this airs from when we are taping it. Your thoughts about his presidency and its connection to education, public education?
That's a tough question. It's a tough question.
Have you thought about it in the last few days?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so tough. It's hard for me to wrap my emotions around that, exactly what I'm feeling.
Do you think you'll feel differently a month from now?
I hope so.
Why?
I'm frankly a little worried, a little scared. I hear somebody, when we talked about just a moment ago, words matter. I hear somebody who, African-American male, educator, somebody who has fought for inclusiveness and bringing people together, and I just hear some of the divisive, again, message that's come out. I worry a little bit, and I hope that we move beyond that. I think the message of change is not one that anyone would object to in terms of Washington getting things done and people being frustrated that there hasn't been a listening or a concern for the people's voice. I get that, and I support that mentality, but the way it was done and the other pieces that surround it, that's what concerns me, and I do hope I feel differently a few months from now.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health, Hackensack University Medical Center Foundation, the New Jersey Association of Health Underwriters, the Give Something Back Foundation, Fedway Associates, the Russell Berry Foundation, and by Gary's Wine and Marketplace. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.